Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. We are constantly flooded with stats and polls, right? They're telling us what people think, what they do, what they want, but how in the world do we know which numbers to actually trust? Today, we're going to give you the tools to become a survey detective. So, you see a headline like this, and hey, it sounds pretty convincing. I mean, who wouldn't want a shorter work week? But hold on. Behind that big, bold 73% is a whole chain of choices that researchers made. And if even one of those links is weak, that clear picture of reality can suddenly become a distorted, funhouse mirror version of the truth. So, should you trust it? Well, the real answer, as it so often is it depends. You have to think like a detective here. See, every survey is basically a case file, and it's full of clues. In the next few minutes, we're going to build your detective's toolkit, piece by piece, so you can look at the evidence and decide for yourself if a claim really holds water. Okay, so before we put on our detective hats, what exactly are we investigating? At its heart, survey research is a systematic method. That word is key. It's not just about casually asking some questions, it's really a science. It's the science of using a small, super carefully chosen sample to create a reliable, numerical snapshot of a much larger group. So, how do the pros, the real survey methodologists, tell good research from bad? Well, they don't just wing it. They use a powerful framework to diagnose exactly where a survey might have gone off the rails. And this, right here, is the most essential tool in our kit, the Total Survey Error Framework. What it teaches us is that a survey's quality isn't about just one single thing, like having a huge sample size. Nope. It's about the total impact of all the potential little errors added up together. You can get one part wrong, and that one mistake can compromise the entire result. This framework points us to four main culprits, four places where error loves to sneak in. And they happen in a pretty logical order. First, you've got coverage and sampling errors. That's all about who you even decide to survey in the first place. Then, non-response error pops up, and that's when the people you picked don't answer. And finally, measurement error. This is a big one. This is when the answers you do get might be inaccurate. Now, we can sort these four culprits into two main gangs. First up, you have errors of non-observation, which, simply put, is all about who we miss. And the second is errors of observation, which is all about how we ask. Let's start with that first category. Who are we missing? This is where the trouble so often begins, long before a single person even sees a question. It's all about who we're trying to study, and more importantly, who we might be accidentally leaving out entirely. So check out how easily things can go wrong right out of the gate. This is called coverage error. Let's say your goal, your target population, is to understand what all software developers in a country think. But the list you actually have to work with, your sampling frame, is just the membership roll for one single professional organization. Bam, instantly, you created a massive blind spot. Any developer who isn't a member of that specific group, they have a 0% chance of being in your survey. You know, we've all had that thought, right? How can this poll be right? They never even asked me. But you know what? The real issue isn't who they didn't ask. The bigger danger is who they did ask, but who then refused to answer. That's non-response error. And it becomes a huge source of bias when the people who say, no thanks, are systematically different from the people who say, sure, I'll take it. Think about it this way. If your survey only hears from the people who are either absolutely furious with a new tool or totally delighted by it, you've completely missed the voice of the quiet majority in the middle, the people who just think it's fine. The result you get isn't a true picture anymore. It's a distorted caricature, a tug of war between two extremes. All right, so even if you do everything right, you survey the absolute perfect group of people, you can still get wildly wrong results. And that brings us to our second category of errors, the mistakes we make in how we ask the questions themselves. Oh man, do words matter? A lot. Just look at this classic example from the Pew Research Center. When they asked Americans about taking military action in Iraq, 68% were in favor. But watch this. When they added just one little phrase, even if it meant thousands of casualties, support absolutely cratered by 25 points. Same fundamental issue, but a different frame gave it completely different result. And here's another huge clue to look for: loaded words. Researchers find this again and again. Asking people about spending on welfare gets way less support than asking about assistance to the poor. The words we choose are not neutral containers for ideas. They come packed with emotional baggage that can totally change the answer someone gives you. It's not only the words, it's the whole format of the question. See, we humans, we have this natural tendency to be agreeable. It's a real thing called acquiescence bias. So if you just ask people to agree or disagree with a statement, a lot of them will just kind of agree. But that better format on the right, it forces a choice between two clear opposing statements that pushes people to really think about their position instead of just nodding along. And believe me, the list of potential sins in question writing just goes on. A good detective is always on the lookout for red flags, like double-barreled questions trying to ask two things at once, or leading questions that are subtly pushing you toward one answer. All of these things, from undefined jargon to confusing double negatives, are huge red flags. Each one adds another potential layer of error to that final number. So now that we've investigated the main culprits, it's time to deliver the verdict. It's time to take everything we've learned and become a truly critical consumer of any survey data you see out there in the wild. Now, it's really important to get this. Perfection is impossible. A good survey is not one that has zero error. A great survey is one where the researchers are totally transparent about all these potential threats. They show you their work, they tell you what they did to find these errors, minimize them, and account for them. It is all about rigor, not about magic. One of the biggest clues to a survey's quality is always how the sample was picked. The gold standard, right at the top there, is probability sampling. That's where every single person in the target population has a known, non-zero chance of being selected. That's the secret sauce that lets researchers say their findings truly represent the whole group. Now, contrast that with what you so often see, especially in online polls: non-probability sampling. This is stuff like convenience samples, literally just surveying whoever is easiest to find. And while those could be interesting for exploring ideas, you simply can't be confident that the results apply to anyone beyond the specific people who took the survey. So this all boils down to a pretty simple 3-question checklist for your detective work. Number 1, who was surveyed and how are they picked? Look for that potential mismatch we talked about. Number 2, what were they asked? Always try to find the exact question wording. And number 3, who paid for this? Knowing the sponsor can sometimes reveal motivations that might have shaped the research from the very beginning. So the next time you see a poll making headlines, you don't have to just take it at face value. Now you've got the framework. You can investigate it, you can look behind the numbers, and you can decide for yourself what story they're really telling. Thanks for watching The Explainer.